Hi, I'm the True Wise Gamer, giving off my vast knowledge so you may understand games a bit better. Let's talk about Ape Escape. It's a series I always wanted to try, but I just never did. I always have this bad habit of myself of where I want to actually try something, but I never do unless I really force myself. Heck, I remember my old friend Caldavian recommending me the game, but I never did because, again, I have this weird inertia about new games. And well, after another friend told me to do it, I basically said to myself, alright, I have enough inertia, come the heck on. But let's actually talk about Ape Escape. It was a series well loved, but suddenly died. I mean, I would say that if it wasn't obvious that it wasn't. Like, sure, the first game did really well. But the games after it did really poorly, and the last game barely passed 1,000K. Why, I'm not entirely sure, because at least through everything I saw through other reviews of all the games, there's nothing really wrong with the games as a whole. They're all equally fine. Like, I legit couldn't find anything that would help me figure out why it happened. Maybe a deluge of content that was just overall mediocre and wasn't worth investing in? Maybe because of a few low quality animes that weren't bad but again weren't that real stellar? Originally, I thought the game died as a whole because of the 7th generation death wave, which is something I just call it because there's really no term to describe it, where a lot of series just died because while they were doing well, they weren't doing gangbusters enough to be like made cheaply. And I know we could go on about the 7th generation death wave, but that's a whole other discussion we should have at another time. But for now, let's actually talk about the developers of Ape Escape. The game was made by the internal development team of Sony, Japan Studio, which basically handles a lot of games on their own or helps support developers if needed. So they usually have access to the latest news about PlayStation and everything around them. Basically sold the new analog controller. And well, they were already developing a game, so they decided to include it into the game, and from what I gathered, it didn't actually hurt development. Which is nice because usually adding in a new feature or new thing into a game can really mess up its development. And I haven't heard anything happening during the development of the game to say anything bad happened, so again, that's nice. But let's actually stop beating around the bush and actually find this ape that has escaped. In Ape Escape. The game begins with a weird cutscene, and that's saying a lot, as we show Spectre, a monkey. Yes, a monkey. Spectre puts on a cap. Where did he get that? That is a good question. In any case, he puts it on and bam, he wants to take over the world with other monkeys. We then cut to our protagonist, Spike, who's with his friend. I literally can't remember his name, because he's just there. Who they are going off to the professor to talk about his new time travel invention. When they get there, the professor is already captured and monkeys have already escaped to the past. And your friend has also disappeared. Wonder when he'll show up again. With no other options, the professor gives you some gadgets to try to go back to the past and capture all the monkeys, and stop Spectre's plan to coming to fruition. And that's basically the plot. Like before, it's a very simple plot that doesn't overextend itself too much and knows what it wants. It wants to be a very gameplay focused game. And the thing you're gonna do for the most part is, well, it's all about capturing those monkeys. So how do we do that? Well, as I mentioned before, the professor gave you some gadgets to try to help you capture them. A stun baton to stun foes you find in the world that aren't monkeys, which I'm not sure where they come from, but whatever. And well, the monkey, who after stunning, or not, it depends on if you're good enough or even able to, you'll be able to use your time net to allow you to capture the monkeys and send them back to the present to be contained, while you continue your search, which at times can be very tricky as some monkeys are very well hidden, and you need to explore the levels to get them all. However, some are impossible to get due to not having the right gadgets yet, which you will gain over time, but you will still need to collect a certain amount of monkeys to make sure you can progress the levels, which the levels themselves are well designed enough. However, it can get annoying at times, only at times, due to the camera. Yeah, let me explain. See, while the game had the left stick still be for movement, The right stick, instead of being for camera control, is used for the tools, which you can swing around in a 360 style. For example, let's just say a monkey's right behind you while you're facing forward. Well, just flick the stick right at the monkey and bam, you'll hit them instantly. And it does also depend on the tool you're using as well. For example, the slingshot is more like a slingshot where you need to fling it backwards, so where you can aim forward and hit your target. Or the monkey finder, where you need to kind of search around a bit to find out where the next monkey is, since some of them are very well hidden. All the gadgets throughout the game have their use and purpose. There's not one tool that goes obviously underused, which really makes the game feel well designed, because with that feeling, you know that everything is used properly. Nothing's wasted. It knows what it wants to do, even if some of their placements are off. Yeah, let me explain. I originally thought the game would give gadgets every new area, but it wasn't. You're just giving them whenever, but not to say that it's bad, it's just weird. Like, you're not sure why they do it like that, but you don't care really either. It's still well done. And you really will need to use them all just to get all the monkeys in the level, as sometimes they really will have a hard time getting captured. So sometimes you might want to try to do it stealthily, as yes, there's stealth in this game. By pressing down on the L3 and pushing forward slightly, you can crawl around to them and capture them real quick, which is actually very useful because sometimes there are just some monkeys that are just really annoying to get. And for the most part, it's really overpowered at times because most of them won't do much, except the monkeys I'm about to talk about. As you'll notice throughout the game, some of the monkeys look different from each other. That's mostly because the game scales in a way where certain monkeys are just better than others. Not for any reason, just more for how hard they're going to be able to be captured. So sometimes you'll just find a basic monkey or a really hard monkey to fight. So you'll have to choose between them. However, this also kind of leads into another problem, which is not a big problem but still worth noting. See, after you gain enough monkeys in a level, you will be instantly transported out of the level, meaning that if you already had another monkey in sight, well, too bad, you have to go back through the level and do the level all over again just to get that one monkey. And honestly, this is only annoying because of certain levels are really simple or really complicated. Like, one could just be a few rooms, and while the other one could be like a bunch of rooms connected to one another. And that's not really a critique, it's just again an oddity. Well, it's annoying for me, it's not like something like ugh, but it doesn't feel natural at times. And I want to repeat something here, I think this game's good. Hell, I think most of the levels are well done. Well, except this barrel platforming part of this level, which is just straight up annoying, I swear. It is the worst part of the game, bar none. Which is saying a lot because this game's actually pretty easy ride. Like, as long as you know what you're doing, there's never really a moment where I can say to myself, this was just horribly designed except that barrel part. And that's nice because usually a platformer game will become a chore to me over time. It still was fun, for the most part, it just became a part of me when we reach a certain point. If you don't know, I'm not a platformer guy, I'm just not a fan of them. They are fine, but that doesn't mean I want to play them. At some point in me, I wasn't enjoying it, but I wasn't hating it. I don't know how to explain it to someone. Basically, I just have this thing in me where I just want to stop playing the game. Not because it's bad or anything, it just wasn't vibing with me. I put it to someone like this. Some people can really get into certain genres of games real simple. Like for me, I love RPGs. I can play any RPG any day of the week, no time flat. But for platformers, they're just dull to me. I really don't have an explanation for it. And I mean, like, that's not even to say the game's not even good. Like, I would say this game's really good in a critical sense. Like, I'm using my critical ability to just say, even if I'm not enjoying myself that much, it's still good. The game looks quite good for a PS1 game. Like, I know that seems like a weird thing to say, but some PS1 games are a bit but this PS1 game looks good. It has a good look to it, good vibe, good everything. I would like to say also the music's quite good too. It has a flavor that's really unique to it, done by this guy named Terada. who's a normal composer of its own stuff, but sadly, it's not a style I'm into. Why? It's just not my style, you know? I'm a very rock sort of person. Mellow music kind of weirds me out a bit. However, the music does vibe with the game really well. It's a more laid back, do it at your own pace sort of thing. Oh yeah, right, I needed to talk about something I didn't talk about earlier. I'm not sure why I forgot him. I think it was just because I found him so dull. During some levels, only 2 times, mind you, only the 2 times, which is really weird because I thought there would be more of them, as more of an interesting idea. Basically, Spike's friend would come up to you and race you. Why? I'm not sure, but they do a race. These are actually quite interesting because they help you learn the mechanics a little better by putting you in the heat of the moment and trying to use them all in a way that would help you just do them. Problem is, there's only 2 of them and they're fine. Like, they're not bad, but they're fine. And really, that's all I really need to talk about, as we do need to talk about the endgame and, well, why I didn't bother doing it. Let me explain. So after a bit, the others get kidnapped and you need to go to Spectre Land. I wonder where that's from. In any case, this level is actually just a bunch of levels combined into one, which is mostly fine for the most part. The levels you're forced to traverse aren't that long, so it's at least not a drag. In any case, after quickly getting the others back, you go off to fight Spectre, defeat him real easily after doing this boss that's... I'm not sure why the game doesn't really explain how to fight this boss because it took me a while to figure out what the heck I was supposed to do, which is weird. Actually, speaking of bosses, the bosses weren't really hard at all. I mean, like, some people wouldn't even consider these guys bosses. I mean, I do, but at the same time, I can understand their position, because these guys are just big enemies that are just, you know, stronger enemies. That's really all there is to them. After Spectre is defeated, he disappears to who knows, and now it is time to talk about the endgame, where the professor will tell you to go back and collect all the other monkeys. And I said to myself, nah, I'm good. Maybe some other time. Now, why would I do that? Well, mostly because I was done. Like, you ever had a good meal, and then you were offered dessert? Like, you wouldn't mind dessert, but you don't feel the need for it? That's how I would basically describe this game in a nutshell. It's fun, I just felt done. Plus, also, completing games aren't my thing for the most part. Like, it's fine, but it's something I'm not gonna do on my own time. However, that doesn't mean we won't go over the ending. So at the end of the day, you beat Spectre again, and you send him back to the monkey park. And the day is saved. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Very anticlimactic. Kinda like this video in a nutshell. At the end of the day, the best way to describe the game is that it's very well done, well designed, and pretty much good. The only real problem is with me. While I can see how it's well done and why people enjoy it, I just don't as much. And really, if I was stuck to play this game again, I at least wanted to cry it. A little bored, but never bad. The gameplay does what it wants to do with no real oversights or real problems. Game looks great, good music at least. Everything's well done. In any case, I'm really glad that I actually played the game. Even if I don't ever feel like playing it again. It was still a good time. Next time, not sure, we'll talk about it next time.